Hello, I am Q, and today I'll be talking about Agile mindset and why that matters to you as a leader. Agile mindset is based on growth mindset. It's the ability to grow, to learn, to adapt to the new situations. We all know that changes happen all the time and that we have to be able to adapt. Part of being resilient is the ability to adapt, and the ability to adapt comes with this growth mindset. You have to be constantly learning, constantly growing, constantly refining what you already know, besides learning new things. It's important to show to your organization the behavior that you want them to adopt. If you talk about continuous learning, it's interesting for you to mention to them, hey, I just took a new training class. I just signed up for this webinar. I am going to a coaching boot camp. I mean, anything of that sort. But it's not only the training part, it's actually the ability part. It's how that applies to the organization. For instance, you can tell them, hey, I just learned that another department tried this particular change on their process. I would be curious if this works here, guys. What do you guys think? Can we run a limited pilot and see how that works? And perhaps we can talk to them and see what difficulties they had, what did they learn, what worked, what didn't work. So it helps us out to direct our effort of continuous improvement. So that's part of modeling the behavior. And you have to keep in mind as a leader that people overall are not comfortable with change. Even though change happens all the time, they're not comfortable. Only about 3% of the people like change for the sake of changing. I am one of those, but I am the minority here. Majority of the people are either conservative or pragmatists. So about 64%, I believe, of people are not very comfortable with change, or they want a much more gradual change. And about 13% of them are very skeptic about change. So those are things that you as a leader have to deal with. And how you handle when people make mistakes is one of the most important parts of agile leadership. You must support learning by supporting people's experimentation. And they will make mistakes, and it's great because you learn something. When you are babies and we learn to walk, we fall all the time. That's how we learn. Then when we start walking, we try to run, we fall. That's how we learn. We develop balance on everything. It's the same thing with experimentation. You have to support their experimentation. You have to make space for experimentation because that's part of a learning culture. But you have to put some guardrails around it, some guidance around it. So we don't create experiments that are potentially going to be extremely bad for us. One of the questions I get all the time is, Q, what's my role as an Agile leader? Because Agile pretty much is all about self-management. Well, when it comes to self-management, self-direction, self whatever you want to call it, right? It's tougher than most people think. If you get a bunch of people in a room and say, you are now a team, go self-direct yourself, people are probably going to have a hard time trying to figure out what to do next, especially if they've never done that before. That's where support from leadership comes, and it's key. You will always find bumps on the road, and we call them impediments. Some impediments the team can resolve by themselves, but very often they need help outside, and that help comes from leadership. That's your job. That's how you can help them. The quicker you get rid of that bump in the road, the more performance you're going to extract, the better processes you're going to have. The other one is dependencies. It's very common that teams require the need of other teams, sometimes in the same organization and sometimes elsewhere in the organization. And that brings up a very interesting problem, prioritization. The priorities of this team who needs the work are oftentimes not the same priorities of the team that can do the work that they require. That requires leadership to synchronize priorities, to make sure that things are happening at the same pace. Otherwise, this team here who needs the work may wait 9 or 10 months or a year. I've seen those for that work from the other team. Impediments and dependencies are two things that leadership can help the teams immensely. Agile leadership is also about letting go. It's not about controlling people. It's about setting goals, having accountabilities for those goals, supporting them, and let them perform at their best. Help them out with all the things that we already discussed. I heard from a Marine colonel, which I cannot remember the name, that I don't want to control my Marines. I want to unleash my Marines. That's the same mindset that you have to have an Agile leader. So set goals, define what the accountabilities are, support your teams, and let them do what they do best. General Patton once said, tell people what you want, and they're going to surprise you with their creativity. That's my departing thought. I hope to see you soon.